So the other day I posted this video to social media and it almost got me into trouble. So this video is about how to create your own stock footage elements for compositing. So as an example, I took this footage of a lion walking and I put him on a street here in town. I thought it looked pretty cool, so I posted it to social media. Well, the next day I got a call from our local zoo and they were like, "Hey, everything going good? How you doing?" And I was like, "Fine." But then they told me they had received a couple of calls from the county officials asking about a lion that had been spotted walking around loose in town. I had commented under the video that it was fake and it didn't even look that real, but some people didn't see the comments and the rumors started spreading. Needless to say, I just pulled the video down and I'm still allowed to go to the zoo, so it turned out fine. Anyway, I'm going to show you a little bit of how to create your own stock footage elements for compositing. One of the main things I'm going to show you is how you can render it in After Effects so that it's ready to just drag and drop into your footage. The quick answer to that is just set format to QuickTime and channels to RGB plus Alpha. But I am going to go a little deeper into how to create and film some of your own elements. The main thing you need to be able to do is to separate the element that you want from the background, and that can be done with rotoscoping or just keying it out. Just anything to get it to be its own layer. So I'm going to show you lions, birds, fire, and candles. So let's start with a lion. I found this clip online of a lion walking and I opened it up into After Effects. When I play the clip, you can see that the camera pans to follow the lion. These video assets need to be shot on a tripod with no camera movement. So the first thing I want to do is stabilize the footage so that there's no camera movement. Since the camera was only panning, I can do that to this clip. If the cameraman was moving around a lot, like side to side or forward and back, then this wouldn't work so well. But for this, I scale the clip down so that I can have some room as the camera pans, and I run warp stabilizer and I set it to no motion. I also set method to position and framing to stabilize only. When it finishes, it's as if the camera was on a tripod and the lion is walking by. Now I can work to extract the lion from the background. I used Rotobrush 2.0 and I set the quality to best and it did okay. With the background and the lion being so similar in color, it wasn't perfect, but it works pretty good for this example. After I finished tweaking all of the frames of the lion, I hit freeze on the Rotobrush and lock my work in. When I go back to the main comp, I have rough footage of just the lion. I might want to play with the feathering and contrast of my rotoscope effect depending on what my video element is. Now I can render this footage as an element for compositing. So I add it to the render queue, and in the output module I set the format to QuickTime and channels to RGB plus Alpha. I set the output and name it to Lion Example. The rendered clip can be used in After Effects or Premiere Pro or any other video editor that uses alpha channels. I opened some footage of a street in town that has similar lighting and I drag in my Lion Example clip. Well, the lion is being lit from the wrong side, so I just changed the X scale to -100 and it flips the clip horizontally. Now I just move and scale the lion until it looks like he's walking down the street. I duplicate my lion footage and I change the new layer to a 3D layer, and I adjust it until it's laying on the ground like a shadow. I use the curves effect to darken it, and then the tint effect to make the blacks a little more blue to match the existing shadows. I place the lion layer on top of the shadow layer and I keyframe the shadow to move with the lion. A little more color and brightness adjustment to the lion and boom, you have footage of a lion walking down the street that's good enough to get you into trouble. Now let's look at a clip of birds. I am making a bird elements pack. It'll be designed to be dragged into huge landscapes or big composites like with castles or something to add some scale and motion. I'm going to make it available to you when it's finished, so subscribe so you'll get a notice when it's ready. Okay, in After Effects, I open some footage I shot of a huge group of turkey vultures. I need to extract the birds from the background. I could try to key out the blue, but since the birds are so dark and the sky is pretty bright, I'm going to use the extract effect from the keying dropdown. After I get the birds keyed properly, I can render the clip. I again set format to QuickTime and channels to RGB plus Alpha. Now I can go to the internet and grab a photo of the sky and I take it into After Effects and I drag and drop my new bird elements in. I adjust the bird layer to fit a little better, and now the photo is alive with birds. It could be used as a video. I can even pre-compose these two clips together and zoom in a little bit and add a wiggle position effect, and now it looks like it's a handheld shot. Let's look at creating fire. You can film any kind of element you want as long as you can get it extracted. You can create muzzle flashes or smoke elements, sparks, fireworks, blood, zombie hordes, which I am making a zombie horde pack for you guys. Or you can even create magical elements. I'm going to create this fire in the same way that I would create a magical element. The lion and birds is the same method you would use if you're actually filming a fire. But for this, I'm going to use a plugin called Red Giant's Particular. It's a particle generator, but it's come so far over the last few years that it's really much more than that now. So in After Effects, I create a new composition and a new black solid. I drag in the particular effect and open the Designer tab. You can take some time and try to create something really cool, but for this, I'm going to open the presets. There are tons of particle effects in here that can be used to make a drag and drop element, but I want a fire, so I find this one called Fireplace. The great thing about fire is you don't have to match the lighting of the scene since fire is a light source of its own. So after I select the fireplace, I position the fire so that it fills the frame but doesn't get cut off by the edges, and then I render it. I set Format to Quicktime and Channels to RGB plus Alpha. I render it out and I open some footage into After Effects that I want to add some fire to. I'm going to use this footage from our short film, Ghost Granny with a Shotgun. This footage is on a tripod, but it's panning around, so I create a new null and I use the track motion. I go ahead and track position, rotation, and scale. When it's finished, I set the target to be the null and I apply the motion track to it. Now I drag in my fire element and I get it into position, and then I parent it to the null object. Now the fire is locked to the couch as the camera pans. I change the fire layer to screen and it looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and drag in some more of this fire element just to play with. I stagger the fires in the timeline so that the flames appear more random and not just as duplicates of each other. And just to sell the effect a little more, I create an orange layer and I use a mask to shape a glowing aura around the fire. I feather it heavily and adjust the opacity. I set the layer to an add mode and now I have a burning couch. Let's look at one more example, creating a candle. I'm going to film this candle element. This will be a good example of how you might want to create different lighting setups when you film, so that you have a variety of the same element that is ready for different lighting conditions. If the scene is lit straight on, you have it, but if it's lit heavily from one side, you have a version of your element for that too. The other issue with this candle is that the candlestick is a normal object, but the flame is a glowing object. And you might want to film those separately or just separate them when you use them in your composite, which is what I'm going to show you. When I filmed the candle, I used a black fabric for the background. You can use green or blue and key it out, but I decided to use black and I'll extract it. I shot some footage where the candle flame is very still and some where I blew on it so that it has the flames dancing a little bit. I had even lighting on these shots, but then I changed the lighting to where the light comes from one side. I don't really have to light it from the other side because I can just flip it horizontally in After Effects, and on a candle, you won't really be able to tell that it's been flipped. After I get some good candle footage, I open the clip into After Effects and I put a mask around the candlestick and the flame, and I make sure that none of the table shows. Next, I drag in the extract effect and I set it to erase the black, and I try to get rid of most of this black halo that formed around my flame. Now I send it to the render queue and I set Format to Quicktime and Channels to RGB plus Alpha, and I render it out. I open a new clip to add a candle to, and I drag in my candle and I place it in the scene. This clip was shot on a tripod, so I don't have to track the motion like I did for the burning couch before. I do a little mask work on the bottom of the candle just to make it look a little more like it's on the bedpost. I adjust the brightness of the candle a little bit with a curves effect just to make it match the background a little better. Now I'm going to duplicate the candle and mask out just the flame. I erase the little mask I did on the bottom of the candle since this layer is going to be just the flame. I set the flame layer to screen and I add a couple of glow effects, and I play with the settings until I get a natural flame glow. Now I have two layers that make up the candlestick and the candle flame. I can duplicate these two layers and move them around to create more candles, but be sure to stagger them in the timeline so that the flames don't all dance in unison. Keep it kind of random looking. So those are the main things that you'll run into when you're trying to create your own stock footage elements for compositing. I buy a lot of elements, but sometimes that gets a little too expensive, or you just can't find what you're looking for. So with this, you have some new options to get what you need, and soon you'll have your own personal stock footage elements pack. Thanks for watching, and I'll post a video with the link when I get the zombie pack and the birds pack ready for you guys. And the tip for the day is always have a plan for random wolf attacks. It could save lives. Ow!
You're flying with the wind. Format the Quicktime and Channels to RGB plus Alpha.